Good afternoon, family. I hope everybody is having a great day. It is February 4th, 2022. And if you are new to this channel, my name is Jonathan, and I created this channel as a way to record my progress as I work towards my goal to achieve a healthy weight. If you do enjoy the video, make sure that you do get subscribed to the channel. Also, make sure that you click on that bell icon so you can get alerted when I go live. And if you'd like to participate in on the discussion, like Anthony here, hey Anthony, I hope you're having a great day. You can catch me live weekdays, generally at 4 p.m. Central Time. Also, you can reach out to us through our Discord, which there is a link to that down in the description below. And then finally, a lot of times we get asked what meals we eat or what we enjoy on our diet. And so we created a Pinterest board that has a lot of the recipes that our family has enjoyed over the past 15 months. Uh, so again, I want to thank everybody for checking out the broadcast here, and we're going to get going. Um, I hope everybody had a good evening since yesterday. I didn't have a whole lot happen. I'm trying to think. So yesterday I got to move my mic. So fix that. Yesterday after the stream, went home. It was nice to actually get home at my normal time as opposed to being really late like I had been the last few days. So I ended up getting home last night, and we had a big salad. It was something Carrie had mentioned during the stream that we were going to have a salad. I love having a big salad. Unfortunately, having a big salad does not photograph well. I can see if I can pull it up here real quick. But we did have a salad for dinner last night. That I had to kind of here it is. So why is that? That's not the one I want. It's this one here. So yes, that's the salad we had last night. I posted it on our Discord. Anthony actually had asked what was in it, and I don't remember everything off the top of my head now, but I know that there was spinach and kale. There's carrots, purple cabbage, couscous, lentils. Oh, let me see what else we had in it. Celery, red peppers, edamame, and then it had our maple Dijon mustard on it. So that's what we had for dinner last night. Absolutely wonderful. I do have another photo of it here, I guess, in the bowl. That was the large mixing bowl that it was all in. I actually had eaten some of it at this point, and I was not able to finish everything that was there. I just a little bit left, but it was awesome. Really just stuffed my gut full. I did end up having a little bit of mango, and then we actually have a nut mix that I had later in the day that I talked about. I don't know if I can get this to, let's see what this looks like when I do this. So that's not good. Yeah. Oh, if I guys, no. See. Anyways, this is from Kirkland. It is the Heart Healthy Mixed Nuts that we found the last time that we went over to Costco. I did have some of those last night, and they are really good. They have a little bit different flavor, I think, because most of them are roasted or dried in some fashion, and sometimes the almonds that we normally get aren't roasted. So that was really a great meal to have, or great snack to have last night. We don't actually have cashews, uh, and it's probably better that I had that mix of nuts than eating cashews. I think cashews probably have a little bit higher fat content. Another photo that I took last night, I had a meeting for one of my kids is in Scouts, and we had a meeting at the elementary school. And we've been to meetings before. I feel like maybe it's been a while since we were at a small meeting with just a few kids at the elementary school. and I was hanging out. And a lot of times, if you guys have been to school cafeterias, especially elementary school cafeterias, the tables are large folding tables that you can't move the bench on. And I actually took a photo and posted it onto my Instagram, which is at Fasting right there, FAHSTING. And I'm going to show that to you guys here real quick. I was able to actually sit at the table with both legs underneath the table. Generally, I would sit on the table with both my legs out. Like I would have sat the other direction if I was on this side of the table, if that makes sense. Or I would have sat with one leg underneath the table and been kind of sideways to the table with my body turned. So to actually be able to sit in a table like that or a chair like that. And I should have asked you guys what your non-scale victories were. I usually ask earlier and I didn't, because this was definitely my non-scale victory, was realizing that I could sit at it. Because like I had sat down with one leg in and then kind of realized that I could actually sit there normal. And so it was pretty awesome to be able to sit at the table normally. And then I'm trying to think if I posted this photo or not, but I did take this. I did do a comparison photo here, so you're gonna actually have 3 of my faces on the screen there. I don't know if I posted that anywhere yet. I probably will post that to Instagram if I didn't already. But just the difference in my face between these 2 photos is crazy. Let me see. Just wild. So puffy, so big. So, that's just kind of the stuff I was messing with last night. And then I like I said, I took that photo and I thought I'd show that to you guys there. Um, just kind of showing off the difference between what I was when I started and what I'm at now. And the reason I had actually gone through and found a bunch of kind of older photos I took right before I started this, and that's where, I got that before photo. Um, and I'm just amazed at the difference in my face and uh just overall the feeling overall I'm feeling great. So and then this morning for food, we went right back to oatmeal and had our regular oatmeal for breakfast. I have been doing a pretty good job, I feel, this week of not like totally overdoing it since Wednesday night. Wednesday night, I definitely had a lot of food. I had chickpea tikka masala and I had oatmeal Wednesday night. So I kind of have not been eating large amounts of food since then. I just kind of had the oatmeal for breakfast the last 2 days. I guess that salad was a lot of food, but it wasn't a lot of calories, I guess. It was a lot of food, but not a lot of calories. All right. I have a few things that I wanted to go over. This book has been talking. So the book I've been listening to is Sugar, Salt, Fat, or Fat, Sugar, Salt, Sugar, Fat, and it's by Michael Moss. I've been saying this every time I've been on. I really like the book. I feel like I'm watching a TV show that they've released all the episodes, and I just want to go and listen to the next part. But I limit myself to just listening to the audiobooks while I'm driving. Because I know I would probably just sit here and listen, or I would just burn through it real quick if I didn't. And I like doing it this way. So I get half hour kind of pieces of the book, and it gives me a chance to reflect on what I heard and kind of maybe even retain it a little bit better over time. But in the book, they talk a lot about the bliss point. And what the bliss point is it's the point that where the scientists have done the research to find out how much sugar or salt that they can add to a food item so that it creates the greatest response from the people eating it, or the best response from the people eating the food. And that they find that it's a bell curve, and that there's some people that don't want any salt or sugar on their food. But then as you add a little bit more sugar, it kind of comes up, and then it reaches a peak, and it kind of sits on that peak for a little while, because there's different people have different preferences or different points. So they can kind of, like I said, the bliss point isn't exactly a peak like a mountain. It's more of a plateau. And then they get to the point where they get too much sugar, and then it starts to diminish, and people start to not like it because it is got too much of a sweet flavor. Uh, and it just makes me think of like how many times I hit my bliss point with eating, or maybe what finally caused me to decide to lose weight for good is that I reached that bliss point, that I maxed out, and I went past the bliss point. I got to a point where, I could handle it, from being like the weight I am now, being 300 to 320 pounds, to being 520 pounds. I was at my bliss point that whole time, and then I hit 520 pounds, or I hit 500 probably. And then that's kind of where I maxed out. I went past my bliss point, that I couldn't continue to go on that way. Um, and now I think about how I've changed my diet so much that my bliss point's at a completely different point from, every meal. So, I can't hardly, uh, I guess I don't hardly have any sugar in my diet. I have had some sweet things, but, um, and that's really the thing that I've noticed since I've started my diet. And we really went 10 months there, that, or yeah, I guess eight to 10 months, where I had no added salt, oil, sugar. It was the fast, and then it was whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar free. And then after I had my surgery, we went up to Des Moines, and we went out to eat when we were up in Des Moines. That was the first time that we had any um salt, or really probably sugar, like in the ketchup and other things. And since then, there's been multiple occasions where uh we have had sugar, and it's crazy how much it gets in your head that you've had sugar, you want more sugar, like there's an addiction to it. There's a drive to have more, or to find an excuse to let yourself have some. And I think salt is no different, and we ran into that this past weekend when we traveled. I felt like we had a great lunch, and we even talked about how if that's the only thing we have, we did awesome. We don't have to worry about anything. It was a good lunch. And then um an opportunity came up and presented itself to have a second meal out, and we jumped on it. I mean, it would have been, we would have had to have gone a little bit longer than we would have liked, in order to, um, if we would have skipped that meal, and so it was dinner time. It was the time to eat, and the chance presented itself, and so we took it. And it's just wild how strong that stuff is, and uh it's amazing how, you use the day to reset. Like we had that day where we had two meals, and then haven't had any, went to bed that night, and then never went back. uh and so it is nice to have that, but it's frustrating, and it's really frustrating because we have all these reasons to celebrate, or um maybe some of it is too that our diet is difficult to eat sometimes without proper planning when you travel. But really, over the past 4 months, there's been so many reasons to celebrate, and uh it's tough to be tempted all those times. We had Thanksgiving, and then we had Carrie's birthday, and then we had Christmas, and then we had New Year's, and then our anniversary, and then we were out of town last weekend, and then this upcoming weekend we have a birthday party for one of our kids. And so it's just crazy how if you want to give yourself an excuse, you can find an excuse, And I don't know what we have coming up after this, but I'm sure 2 weekends from now there's going to be a situation where um going out to, well, 10 days from now, there's a situation where a lot of people go out to eat, and uh Valentine's Day is right around the corner. So it's really um it's really just it's so difficult to avoid these temptations, and I know how difficult it is. And uh but like I said, and I say it at the end of every stream, and I actually posted yesterday. I really was happy with my sign off yesterday, so I actually cut that out. Carrie's checking in saying, hey Carrie, I hope everything's going great at home today. But I cut yesterday's kind of sign off out and posted that on its own as kind of a don't wait, get started on your diet today kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I any of those events I just talked about is a reason why uh somebody would break their diet. And almost all of those I did break my diet. I don't know that I did on Christmas, but I did on Thanksgiving. Anyways, uh it's uh it's just crazy. And but you know what? I don't Another thing is too that, like, all of these events weren't necessary celebratory events 20 years ago, or events where you celebrate with food necessarily, or that you go out to eat, like for a birthday you go out to eat, or um the only one that's definitely surrounded by food is Thanksgiving, of the previous ones. But um and that's all kind of part of the corporations trying to find excuses for you to eat some of these foods, just like they talk about things like Mother's Day and Valentine's Day were invented by Hallmark to sell cards. Well, some of these other holidays that we celebrate were invented by these food industries to sell cake, to sell us these desserts and these treats. Um, and I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole today, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's lost a lot of weight over the past about the same amount of time I have. They had less weight to lose, but they are much closer to their goal weight than I am. And when I was talking to them, the I it's frustrating for me because I wish everybody that was close to me would see how good I'm doing and feeling and just be like, yeah, of course I'm going to do whatever John's doing. But that's not the case, And it takes time. But they are relying heavily on a calories in, calorie out mentality, and then they are doing a good bit of working out to lose weight. And like I said, they've had great success. I can't deny that they've lost weight, but they're also at a point now where they are at their goal weight and they're kind of struggling with finding that balance between eating uh uh getting a full stomach and being satisfied with their meal and maintaining the weight that they're at, because the food that they've been eating has such a high calorie density, is really, like I've said before, is what it comes down to, is if you're eating foods that are above that 5 to 600 calories per pound regularly, then it's going to be really hard to lose weight because you're going to eat between 4 and 6 or 3 and 5 pounds of food a day. And if you're a big eater like me, I definitely am a fan of eating, closer to that 5, 6 pounds a day. But if you're eating even if you eat 5 pounds and it's 500 calories, then that's 2,500, which is about what they say you burn in a day. And if you do the 30 to 90 minutes of moderate exercise, then you're definitely going to be at either right on or at a deficit. But if you're eating, and even if it's 600 calories a pound, that's still another 500 calories. So you're up to 3,000 calories. And how much working out do you have to do to lose 500 calories? And many of these things aren't just at 600. Many of these things are at the 800 or the, getting close to 1,000 calories per pound. And so you're getting close to 4, 5, you know, I definitely know I had days where I ate 6 to 10,000 calorie days, but but yeah, it's just tough to find that balance when you're eating high calorie food and your body's pushing you to eat more volume. And then so one of the things that he got talking about was looking at the nutritional labels on the cereal that he was eating. And it's really interesting because that's like right what the book is going into that I'm listening to, the salt, sugar, fat. He's just getting into nutritional labeling. I talked about it a little bit yesterday and I didn't, he kind of confirmed what I thought. But what we see as traditional nutritional labeling on food didn't happen until the early 90s, which is when I was a young kid. So for me, they've always had the nutritional labels that had the serving size and the calories and everything like that. And so, but he brought up that he was looking at Cheerios and comparing it to like Cocoa Puffs, and how the Cocoa Puffs actually wasn't that much worse for him calorie wise. And so he was like, I'm going to eat the Cocoa Puffs because I'm going to eat what tastes good or what I enjoy. And so I got talking to him and I was like, well, I eat shredded wheat. And we looked at the box of shredded wheat and the calories, because I had a box here. And uh, I was kind of like, some of the items he kind of looked at, he goes, well, I'm not eating anything with that much of, carbohydrates in it or that much, whatever in it. And after he left, I kind of was like, well, how can shredded wheat be worse than the cereals or the foods that he was talking about? And so what I ended up doing is I spent way too much time on this, but let me switch over to this. So I got looking into the different dietary things and what is most interesting. So I'm just going to kind of go through and look at the first thing you see. And this is post shredded wheat. And per serving, it is 210 calories. If you go to Cheerios per serving, it's 140 calories on their label. And if you go to Cinnamon Toast, it's 170 calories on their nutritional label. So the on their label per serving, the highest calorie food is shredded wheat. um, and that's like crazy. Like, how is that possible that shredded wheat is the highest calories per serving? Well, what you do then is you have to look at the serving size. So shredded wheat being 210 calories, their serving size is 1 1/3 cup. But it's not just 1 1/3 cup, it's 60 grams, because that's important. When I look at Cheerios, Cheerios serving size is 1 1/2 cups. And so let me think. So it's about the same cups, actually more in cups, but if you look at the grams, the shredded wheat was 60 grams and the Cheerios is 39 grams. So the difference there is huge in the weight of the food. And then the third one there that I was talking to is, they're talking about was the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and their serving size was 1 cup, and that is 41 grams. So what I was looking at here is that it's really confusing then, because you're dealing with theirs is a cup. This is a cup and a third, and Cheerios is a cup and a half. So they all use a different volume measurement, but then you look at the volume measurements and they're way off too, because at 1.5 cups, it weighs 2/3 of what this is at 1 1/3 cup. Like, so it's lighter, it's more volume, but it's lighter. And the same thing with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's 1 cup, 41 grams. That's almost 20 grams lighter. And it's only what is it? 0.46 different. So it's not that much smaller. So what I did is I actually have a graph in front of me here that I don't have it spelled out. But what I ended up doing is I equalized everything on 60 grams, which is what the shredded wheat has. So if they did the same grams, not cups, because Cheerios is puffier and it has a hole in the middle and it takes up more space, whereas shredded wheat is very dense and thick. If you equalize these by weight, at 60 grams, shredded wheat has 210 calories. It has 1.5 grams of total fat. It has 49 carbohydrates, 8 grams of fiber. 1 is soluble. The other 7 is insoluble. And then 7 grams of protein. If you put Cheerios at 60 grams, if you equalize the weight to shredded wheat, it goes up 214 calories. So it's slightly more calories, but you wouldn't expect Cheerios to be that many more calories. But the total fat goes to 4.2 grams. That's almost 3 times more. It has 1 gram of saturated fat. It's got a gram of polyunsaturated fat. It's got a gram of unsaturated fat. And then the sodium, the shredded wheat had no sodium. This has 300 milligrams of sodium at the same weight as shredded wheat. It only says on the label, though, it's got 140 milligrams of shredded wheat, or there's 140 milligrams, or I guess this one here is different because this was a little bit different, but it's less. It only shows that it's 190, but it's actually 300 milligrams. Potassium, all this stuff is way off. The total carbohydrate, there's actually, so in shredded wheat, there's 49 grams carbohydrates. There's 42 grams in Cheerios, but according to this box, there's only 29 grams in the same different size servings. It's actually more. So they're playing trickery with these labels, and these labels were actually designed to be warning labels. Like when you see a nutrition label on a piece of food, that is a warning that food has been processed. They don't put warning on the top of it because Philip Morris, who owns a bunch of these food companies, was able to, do a better job than they did with cigarettes, I guess. They fought so hard with cigarettes not to get warning labels. Well, companies started saying, we got to let people know what you're putting in their bodies. We got to put nutritional labels on here. So they gave them these regulations. They made these serving sizes variable, apparently. And from what the book says is they based them off of studies that were done on volumes that people ate from 20 years earlier in the 70s. So it wasn't even accurate data that they created these serving sizes. So anyways, I didn't even get into the Cinnamon Toast Crunch because it goes way off the charts too. When you look at the calories, it's 38 more calories per serving. So it says 170 calories here. If you make it 60 grams like shredded wheat, it's 248 calories. It looks like it's less calories if you look at the box. 210, 170. Why wouldn't I eat the lower calorie food? Well, it's 2/3 the weight. 248 calories for the same amount of weight of food. It's 6 grams of fat versus 1.5. There's 4 times more fat in Cinnamon Toast Crunch than there is in shredded wheat. The unsaturated fat, the polyunsaturated, the monounsaturated fat's real high. The sodium's goes up to 336 milligrams. It says here, though, it only has 230, but in the same volume of shredded wheat that has 0 milligrams, that has 336 milligrams of sodium. We don't even know. The sodium could be so many things. Sodium is a generic term, you know. Carbohydrates, 48 grams of carbohydrates, you know, but there's no dietary fiber. You know, like when you look at carbohydrates, I think you also have to kind of look at dietary fiber and what the insoluble and the soluble is. But there's two, so it's about 3 grams of dietary fiber. So there's half, almost a third, the dietary fiber in Cinnamon Toast Crunch as there is in shredded wheat. Sugars is 17 grams of sugar. I don't even know how much 17 grams of sugar is. I'd be curious as to see how much, what 17 grams of sugar looks like. 17 grams of sugar in teaspoons. How many teaspoons is, it's 4.5 teaspoons of sugar per serving that you're getting with cinnamon, which is no surprise with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I mean, it's covered in sugar. But with Cheerios, you're getting 2 grams of sugar too. And Cheerios seems to not really have any, but there is sugar in it. And so, yeah, I guess I just wanted to go through this and kind of just show you guys how much they play with these labels. These are supposed to be warning labels. You know, the food that you should be eating shouldn't have these labels on it, you know, as much as possible. You know, like that should be the goal, is to eat the produce, you know, eat the stuff that this is made of. The other thing that I wanted to point out is on the ingredient list on these products. So I'm not sure how to find shredded wheat's ingredient list, but I'm pretty sure that you guys will believe me that shredded wheat is made from shredded wheat. And then I think that there might be like something to help preserve the food itself from dying. But shredded wheat is just wheat. Cinnamon Toast Crunch includes whole grain wheat, which is an ingredient in shredded wheat. It also has sugar, rice flour, canola oil, fructose, maltodextrin, dextrose, salt, cinnamon, trisodium phosphate, soy lecithin, caramel color, and BHT to preserve the freshness. So there's like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 14 ingredients in Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And the main ingredient is whole wheat. Whole wheat, it says whole grain wheat, the number one ingredient. If there was whole grain wheat, if it was the whole grain, where'd the fiber go? Because in shredded wheat, which is whole grain wheat, there was 8 grams of dietary fiber. So if Cinnamon Toast Crunch was made up so much of whole grain wheat, which it gets the list as its top ingredient, then why is there not more fiber in it? It's because it's removed. And it's removed so they can reduce the calories, and they can add these other things like the sugar, the rice flour, the canola oil, the fructose, which is soup. It's like the sweetest part of yeah. So they remove stuff from that whole grain. They get to say whole grains in it, but it's not the whole grain. It's fractionated whole grain. And then they add all this other stuff. And then on top of that, they add all these vitamins and minerals that they get to say, hey, we fortified it with these vitamins and minerals, so it makes it even better for you. Walter says, hello, are you a vegan for any moral reasons? Hello, are you checking your chat? Yes, sorry, I just got on a rant here. So I did not start eating this diet for moral reasons. It was not my initial intention. But as I've eaten this way for over a year and realized that I don't have to cause any harm to animals in order to continue to eat this way, then I guess I don't see the point in doing the harm if I can survive without harming them. So, um, I, yeah. So it's a long answer there, I suppose. It wasn't my intention, but I am working more towards being an actual vegan. I try not to buy products that are, the shoes I bought since I started this are vegan shoes, and I no longer use a down comforter. So I've made a few changes in my life, but that's not the reason why I switched to this diet. I switched to the diet for my health. And to try it out, honestly, I didn't think it would work, but it has been. So, uh, so I'm going to stick with it because it's helped me lose all this weight so far. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to point out that it's interesting that they get to say that there's whole grain wheat in it, but it's not possible that there's whole grain. The whole grain is in there, because if there was, then it wouldn't have lost all this dietary fiber. There wouldn't be, um, it wouldn't have had room for all this sugar to be similar calories. Let me see. Let me go back to my main page here. Um, so just be careful when you're looking at the nutritional labels. These companies that we're buying these foods from have spent millions of dollars in order to provide you with the best, most confusing item thing that they can give you, and then they even add the ingredients for the whole milk. And the neat thing that the book is talking about right now is the work that Kraft had done in the early 2000s to try to reduce the confusion for people. And I don't know if they still do it, but he talks about in the book that at one point Kraft actually had to go to the government and say, hey, we have these nutrition labels and we're following your direction on the nutrition labels, but we would like to modify them to show the nutrition for the entire contents of the item that we're selling. And I actually can bring this back up because that was one of the other things I did do the math on. So when you look at Cinnamon Toast Crunch here, it's 170 calories, but and so that's what you kind of focus on. But if you look at the fine print here, it's also on most boxes, it's 13 servings per container. And so in a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the whole box has 2,210 calories. And so Kraft actually went to the government and said, hey, we want to put the calories per serving, but we also want to have another column that has the calories per box. And they had to kind of, and like I said, he's just going into it in the book right now, but there's a little bit of a jockeying because they wanted to put it on the label, but they didn't want it to be like predominant on the box, because that was kind of what some people were arguing for, is that you should have the total calories that are in the box on the front or in the bag of chips. I think that's where the biggest thing happens is when you go and you buy a bag of Doritos, you don't just eat one serving of Doritos. And well, I've done it a few times where I've been on a diet where I've been worried about my calories. And so I go and I'm like, okay, I can have 13 tortilla chips, or I can have 13 of these chips, and that's a serving. And then that'll be my exact calories. I've done that, but it's not sustainable to keep doing that. And it's not what most people do. Most people sit down and they pound a bag of chips and they eat until they're stuffed. They don't eat a single serving or even 2 or 3 servings. And so when you look at a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch being 170 calories, 13 servings per container, 2,210 calories, I probably in the past, and it's been a while since I've like sat down and crushed Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but I would at least eat half a box. I don't think that it would be it wouldn't be unreasonable. I mean, at least a third. Like if a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch lasted me 3 meals, that would be surprising. Um, And so I'm not eating 170 calories. I'm eating at my best, maybe 600 calories, but in reality, probably 1,000 calories of, food when I sit down and eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But when you're trying to do the quick math in your head and you're looking at a label and you're like, hey, well, why wouldn't I get Cinnamon Toast Crunch? It's only 170 calories. That shredded wheat's 210 calories. You're going to get fat eating that shit. Like, really? Like, it's just crazy. So, so they had to do a little bit of jockeying because they wanted to put the total calories on there so their consumers could be a little bit better informed. But at the same time, they didn't want it to be predominant. So that's, like I said, the interesting part that I'm listening to with the book now. The other kind of crazy part of this whole thing, that when I picked up this book, I was not expecting to hear the company name Philip Morris at all. I never would have thought that I would hear Philip Morris, because Philip Morris is the tobacco company. They sell cigarettes to people, and they're Marlboro, and that's what they do. But what happened is that Philip Morris made so much money selling cigarettes to people for years that they decided to diversify, and they bought Kraft and they bought General Foods. And so these people at Kraft that are trying to do some good also are just the people at Kraft. They got their parent company, Philip Morris, who for years has had a pretty good track record of just being mostly focused on profit and not so much about consumer outcome, on their back, trying to tell them to get sales, and so they also, what they found, and he talks about it in the book, is that these companies capitalize on this line extension where they have their Cheez-Its, Cheez-Its, everybody has Cheez-Its. You love Cheez-Its, right? Well, when they reduced a low fat Cheez-It, then Cheez-Its in general just became more popular, because then people could choose to have the low fat option, or people could be like, you know what? I was buying Cheez-Its to indulge. Now I know they're indulgent, so I'm going to buy the regular Cheez-Its instead of getting the light ones, and then there's all kinds of mental reasons why people make the choices they make. The problem is the companies know all these mental reasons. We don't know these mental reasons. They constantly trick us, I mean, it's just amazing. And, anyways, I've been ranting about nutrition labels for a while now. I appreciate you guys hanging out if you did so long. Again, avoid labels. Avoid foods that have warning labels on them. And that's all foods. And when they do have a warning label, look at the fine print. Look at the shredded wheat. They make shredded wheat look bad on purpose. They're making it look bad. Why would shredded wheat show as a higher calorie count than all of the other foods? Unless they want you to think that it's worse for you. I mean, it's just wild. It's insane, guys. And all of these things they have to add in. Look, this is Cheerios. Cheerios here. Whole grain oats, cornstarch, sugar, salt, tryptopotassium, phosphate, vitamin E, added to preserve freshness. And then they put all of these vitamins and minerals in here, so you buy it. They took out all the fiber. There's no, there's half as much dietary, but they took out a bunch of the fiber. And then they add in all of these things, and then they put these on the box. They don't say, hey, it's fractionated whole grain oats. It's not actual whole grain oats. It's fractionated. But we're going to put all these things in here to make you guys feel better about your food. So it's ridiculous. And I'm so happy that I don't have to buy into that system. I buy the fruits and the vegetables. There's a few items that we do have, like the shredded wheat. I do eat that, but it's got one ingredient on it. It's wheat, and so, it's just something that I wouldn't have known unless I read this book and I started looking into it here. And then, like I said, my buddy was kind of talking about it, because So there's that calories in, calories out, you know, and I think it's so much more. It's calories absorbed versus calories out. And these high processed foods are highly absorbable, 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 bibble. I don't know. They're very absorbent. You can absorb them through your bodies. I don't know. Drink every time I say absorb. All right. I'm out of here, guys. I want to thank you guys for checking out my live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do enjoy it, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Click on the bell icon so you'll get alerted when I go live, which is generally weekdays. And you can join in on the Discord. Let us know how you guys are doing with your weight loss and keep us up to date with that. I appreciate it. And if you haven't started your diet yet, get started right now. There's no reason to wait. There's no event coming up that's more important than your overall health and wellness. Get started right now, guys. And go all in. You know, they say you can make moderate change. You can just, I'll eat a little bit healthier this next meal. It doesn't happen when you're still eating these highly processed foods, these super palatable foods. It's hard to switch to a diet that isn't hyper palatable, that's actual whole foods. So it takes time to do, but you need to switch completely. And the idea that you can just eat less. I just eat what I'm eating. I'll eat less. It works for a while. It does. You can eat less for a while, but it's not sustainable. And when you get to your goal weight, you don't get to eat what you used to eat. You don't get to go back to that volume you used to eat. You still have to eat less. So anyways, get started now, guys. Go all in. And if you haven't tried a whole food plant-based diet, SOS free, I highly recommend you give it a chance, especially if you're severely overweight like I was. It's done incredible things for me over the past 15 months. Get started now, guys. I appreciate it. You all have a great weekend. Holy crap, it's the weekend. You guys all have a great weekend. All right.